It's all about opinions, about our own interpretation without understanding legal aspect of it. That's why we have so much chaos. Okay? Okay. I'm not agreeing one or the other. I'm just letting you know what they are so you understand where I'm coming from. I'm not teaching about the Gemara or the opinions. I'm only trying to go to the ruling. So in this case, the Mishnah is talking about 4 new years in the Bible. 4. Now we have a minimum 2 new years in the United States. New Year, January 1st, right? But you also have the calendar year for your taxes. Right. Then you have the calendar year for a business. Fiscal. So you have different New Years. So what's the problem with the fiscal? If you don't have a business, you don't have to worry about it. Right. You know? Right? Okay, so in the Bible, there are 4 new years, and they are all connected with the temple. Okay, so let's go right there. Now, out of the one, I'm going to show you out of 2 of those calendars, it's going to show you when Yeshua resurrected. You want to know when Yeshua resurrected? Paul would go to any synagogue in the ancient world. He will walk in on Shabbat, and he will open the Torah scroll, and he will show them the resurrection of Messiah in the Torah scroll. Isn't that what it says in the Gospels? That he will go to all of them, he will argue from scriptures about Messiah, but yet there's not one verse in the Torah that literally says that Yeshua will die and resurrect in 3 days. That Yeshua will resurrect on the 17th of Nisan. Or does it? But it doesn't literally says it. But the resurrection is there. So let me ask you a question. I don't mean to be mean in any way. How come Paul can go to any synagogue and open the Torah scroll and show Messiah only by opening the Torah or the prophets and the writings, and we need the gospel to teach about Messiah, and we don't even have a clue how to do it from the Torah? Do we have really the right to be arguing about stupid stuff? If we don't really know how to use the Torah to teach about Yeshua, I highly recommend we take 3 steps back and educate ourselves to say, let's go back to basics. Because then if an Orthodox Jew walking through here saying that you love Yeshua, it's not going to do the trick. Because the history does not support that love according to the way it was in the Middle Ages. He doesn't care about how much you tell him Jesus loves him. Because the history proves otherwise according to his mindset. So we owe it to ourselves to equip ourselves the way Yeshua did it. And he said it. The Torah and the prophet speaks of me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you using biblical calendars how it speaks about Messiah and the new creation of Messiah and the resurrection of Messiah. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so the first of Nisan is the first of the year, the reckoning of the year for kings. For example, if a king is enthroned in December, then Nisan 1 become 1 year. Even though he only served for 3 months, 4 months before. You see what I mean? So counting of the years was different in the Bible than it is to us. All right. So then, also the first of Nisan is the beginning of the months for the agricultural cycle. The agricultural cycle. Now, please, if I lose you somewhere, if I go too fast like I usually do, slow me down. I'm here for you. We got a little bit of time. I hope you're not in any hurry. Listen, mentally, I'm exhausted. Okay, seriously, I've been traveling all year long. I'm here. I really want us to get something out of this. Hopefully, we'll learn together and we'll grow together. Okay, that's my intent. If you don't agree, that's okay. Take questions afterwards. We can dialogue about it. Okay, but don't argue just because you want to argue because I maybe touched on something that you don't agree with. If you don't have the facts behind it, do the research. Get in touch with me. Let's put it together, and if I'm wrong, I'll fix it. That's not a problem. Is that cool? All right. All right. I'm glad you all agree. Thank you. If not, we have MMA back down. I'm kidding. All right, here we go. So, the agricultural cycle. You got to understand, when you go to Israel, the temple dealt with agriculture, right? So you need to, if you're going to worship God, you have to do it according to the agricultural cycle. If you go to Israel, you know the agricultural cycle starts in the spring. Nisan, March, April. And then you go all the way to October, which is the end of the year for the agricultural cycle. But it's not the end of the year of the regular year. You got it? Okay, and the Bible supports what I'm just saying. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Next, number 2, the month of Elul, which is the month we're in right now. Okay, the month of Elul was, when the temple was standing, was for the tithe of the animals. You need to know how many years each animal was because the sacrifices were done. For example, Passover of the first year. So what constitutes a lamb for the first year? When do you start counting? You know what I mean? So therefore you have to understand these things. The paraduma, the red heifer, you have to count from where? You see, so you have to know how many years. So then you need the month of Elul in regards to tithing of animals. Number 3, the first of Tishri, which we are going into. Now, and this is my personal note here, okay? How many of you have never heard of the Akitu ritual of Babylon? Raise your hand. If you've never heard of it, raise your hand. Okay. You know, they've been telling us that the Rosh Hashanah, which means head of the year, so we're going to find out what the head of the year is all about. Now, I do not agree at all with the way modern Jews celebrate Rosh Hashanah. I don't agree with that at all. Okay? But many people, because of the lack of temple understanding in this case, they are saying that Rosh Hashanah, head of the year, it's pagan coming from Babylon, and that is fake news. Fake news. Because the first year for the Babylonian year happened in the month of Nisan. The Akitu ritual took place for 12 days in the month of Nisan. So now because the Babylonians did that ritual in the month of Nisan, you're not going to celebrate Passover in Nisan anymore? For example, Tishri, right, or Nisan in this case, is a name that was given, that was used in the Aramaic, in the Babylonian, and some of the same root word, right? Means spring. That's what it means. Oh, no. All those Hebrew months comes from Babylon. No one is worshiping the words. That's just the name. So I find it a little bit hypocritical that we are so dogmatic about the names that are in the Bible, but yet we say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, January, February. You see? That makes no logical sense. So now they say, well, no, we're going to call it Aviv. Well, guess what? Aviv is Canaanite. No one is worshiping the word. The word means spring. That's one of the things I needed to fix about 15 years ago.
Green.
It means spring.
Right. Green, right?
Huh?
It means green, doesn't it?
Yeah, like Tel Aviv. Yeah, spring.
Green thing with things.
Yeah, more or less, yeah, something like that. So now what we have, okay, another thing, this is my point of contention here, it's a little rant, okay, a little my side note here. And if you do this, please, I'm not judging you, okay? I'm just maybe making you aware of something. We don't want to celebrate the counting of the sabbaticals and the jubilees, which is why we have the month of Tishri. Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year for the counting of the jubilees and the sabbaticals. Let me ask you a question. When have you ever counted the sabbaticals and the jubilee in the month of Nisan? Never. So if you only celebrate the beginning of the year in the month of Nisan, then how would you know the counting of the jubilees and the coming of Messiah when the coming of Messiah happens in the fall? Okay, so we don't want to celebrate Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah, or Yom Teruah, yes, which falls on the head of the year for the counting of the jubilees and the sabbaticals, but we celebrate the 31st of December. New Year. And I see it on Facebook. Happy New Year. Wait a minute. That's a Roman pagan observance of the god Janus. So I don't get it. We don't want to commemorate the observance of the counting of the sabbatical and the New Year's for the Jubilees, but we welcome the 31st of December and we go celebrate it everywhere and we say Happy New Year. We got a problem, folks. And I'm not here to judge you. I'm just saying, like, if you're doing it, reconsider. Do your research. Go look it up. Look it up on Google right now. It would only take you like 2-3 seconds. Depends how fast your internet is. It's not a mystery. So instead of arguing with you about it, which I get attacked every year, oh my God, God forbid I say something. People start arguing instead of saying, man, I never heard that. Let's verify it. Is it true? If it is, let's change. They start arguing with us. And it's frustrating. Because all I'm trying to do is make you aware of something that you may or may not know. I'm not trying to send you to hell. That's not my job. I can't do that. My job is to inform you, because if I don't tell you the truth, I bear your guilt. And then your blood is in my hands. And I love you enough to tell you, even if you attack me. All right? So far, so good?
Go for it.
Okay, good deal. So I'm still welcome maybe next time? All right. So Tishri is the counting of the jubilees and the sabbaticals. And I'm going to get to the point in a minute, okay? Bear with me. The 4th is the first of the year for the trees. The new year for trees. Well, Rico, why would you need, ask me, well, Rico, why would you need first of the year for trees? I'm waiting. Ask me.
Why do you need the first of the year?
Don't tell me you're shy because you're not shy. All right. I'm glad you asked. Because the Torah talks about when you go into the land, you have to have the first fruits. So when do you start counting? If it doesn't bear fruit after 3 years, you have to cut it and plant another one. So how would you know? You know, if you plant something, you want to bear the first fruits, have to go to the temple. So every single one of those is connected with the temple. Let me ask you a question. When do you blow the ram's horn in the temple?
In the temple.
There are different trumpets. There are different trumpets you play throughout the day on the holidays. But the ram's horn is only blown on the Day of Atonement in the year Jubilee. Only. Because that's a sign of the great trumpet. Let's go to Matthew 24 real quick. There are three trumpets in the Bible. There's the sound of the trumpet, Pentecost, the sound of the last trump, Yom Teruah, and the sound of the great trump, which is Yom HaKippurim, Yom Kippur. Okay? Matthew 24, verse 20-something. I can't see. 31. Can you read it? Anybody? Somebody?
Sent out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and he would gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other.
Okay, so you see, sounds with a great trump. That's the language of the fall feast. You got those 10 days between Yom Teruah and Yom HaKippurim. Those days that you tell people, may you be inscribed in the book of life from the day of trumpets, and then may you be sealed in the book of life after the day of atonement. And you only sound the ram's horn on the day of atonement in the year of Jubilee. That's it. You cannot do it any other time. Okay, now we do it now because with the temple's not standing, but when the temple or the altar is standing, you cannot blow the shofar on the Day of Atonement here in America. Because only the priest can do that. That's going to be another debate and struggle. It's going to be interesting how many things are going to change. I'm trying to educate people as best I can with what I know, because when that happens, I'm stepping back and let everybody kill each other. You know? All right. So let's go into now what I wanted to show you. Okay? Instead of arguing about which calendar is right or wrong, is irrelevant. That's not the topic. Because even if you were right about every calculation, you don't have the legal jurisdiction to change it anyway. Did you know that? I mean, can you change the law of the United States? Well, okay, can you change it? Did you change it? So how can we change biblical law? That's another topic. Okay. So
When you say change it, you mean
change it. Can you change the Constitution? No. Can you change the law?
is there a difference between keeping it and changing it?
Oh, let me ask you this. I think this is better wording that I could choose. Because our job is to, let's go to Leviticus 23. I want to answer that question. Leviticus 20, that's a good question. Leviticus 23. Somebody help me read. Somebody read verse 1 and 2, and someone read verse 40 or 44. Okay, because that's a very good question.
The Lord spoke again to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, The Lord's appointed times which you shall proclaim.
There you go, right there. You shall what?
Proclaim.
There's a distinction between proclaiming something and decreeing something. Something to think about. Now go to verse 40 or 44. Can somebody read it? Oh, the same chapter. Go ahead.
40. And you shall say for yourselves,
44.
44.
Yeah.
Thus did Moshe speak of the appointed times of Adonai to the children of Israel.
Right. Moses spoke, in some versions says he decreed. Right? Because Moses was the leader of the congregation. He was the leader of the Sanhedrin council. This is the key. Now, when people argue sometimes about the debates, the issue is not whether we can keep it. The issue is who determines is official. That's really it. Because there's a protocol of who declares them kadosh. Holy. That's really the argument. Not whether we keep it or not. So we can talk about it a little later. That's a good question, okay? But what I want to do, I want to get away from that aspect of the conversation and go right to the real cool stuff that we can find when we connect all the biblical calendars that are dealing with the temple and when we find about Messiah. That I think will be edifying to us, okay? All right. Am I doing a good job?
Yes.
This is not an easy thing to navigate. You know, I'm learning to be a better teacher. I am. I really want to. Listen, there was a time when I just wanted to, no, I'm right, and I'm right. And I decided that that's not helping anybody. I'm getting more gray hairs, you know, and instead of, let's compare information. And then let the Spirit of God do the rest. Okay? All right. So, speaking to the Spanish community has really helped me. The Spanish community has been very challenging in a good way because the level of resources is a lot less than that we have in America. They don't have the same teachers. They don't have all the books and all that stuff. So I had to learn to like really present it without minimizing them because they're very smart. It's just they don't have the resources available. You know, so when they come into the Torah, they are trying to run with what they understand, running because they are so desperate want to please God. And they're not really taking the time to verify information or look for the resources to validate their positions. So I had to step back and say, their intent is great. They just don't have the resources. So instead of me arguing about me being right, let me present the resources so they can validate it. And that's really been successful. You know, so that's what I want to do with you, okay? All right.
Amen.
So, Nisan, repeat after me. Is the first month of the religious calendar. But it's the seventh month of the civil calendar. Tishri is the first month of the civil calendar, but is the seventh month of the religious calendar. Chew on that.
And I have that in writing so I can chew a little better.
The PowerPoint is actually in the computer, so you guys can study it out. You can have it, and if you like it, share it. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
No problem. So we're dealing with the with the religious calendar right now. Okay, the religious calendar was established when? Nisan was established when? When they came out of Egypt, right? Oh, so what happened in Genesis? Okay, but there was a calendar working there. So which one was it? It's not the one in Egypt. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Ah, good. So now we have that when it comes to the religious is when they come out of Egypt. The civil is from creation. 120 Jubilees is from creation. You see? So we're never connecting that. The reason why you need the religious calendar are based on agriculture is because, why Nisan, by the way? Why did the Lord say it's going to be the beginning of years for you? But why? I mean, everyone in the ancient world, except for the Egyptians, they kept it in Nisan because of the rain cycle. They kept it a little later in Egypt. But why would everyone keep it in Nisan? Babylonians, the Assyrians, because it was the agricultural cycle. The rains will come during that time. They believed that Baal, the rain of Baal, was the sperm of Baal, and the Mother Earth, Astarte or Asherah, received the rain, and then you have fruit. So they will take the fruit from gods, and they take it to their temple, and they give their first fruits of the cosmic sex that they perceived when it rained and it came out. Oh, okay. The seed, the rain. Oh, that has to be Baal's sperm. Oh, that has to be the egg of Asher. You see what I mean? That's the logic they had. God tells Israel, when you come out of Egypt, you're free people. You're going to let everyone know that Baal and Asherah does not exist. When you go in the beginning of the years for the agricultural cycle, it's going to be Nisan like everyone else. Except that you will bring the first fruits to me. In other words, not to Baal and not to Asherah. There is no such thing as those gods. So you will be my example, my image on the earth, letting everybody know that I'm the creator who provides the rain in its season, the fruit in its season, and everything that comes with it. Yes? Okay. So now, when you look into Matthew chapters, actually, there's some verses I want to get to. Hold on. Oh, it's not in the English.
Oh, no.
It's in Spanish. In Exodus chapters 34, Exodus chapters 34, I think it is, when it talks about the feast. Let's see if we can find it.
Okay.
34, when it talks about the feast. Or the chapter that talks about the feast, either or. 34? When you look for tabernacles.
22, Feast Festival of Shavuot, 3 times a year.
22, verse 22?
Yeah, that's what you're looking for.
Okay, it says, here we go, verse 22. And you shall observe the feast of weeks of the first fruit of the wheat harvest. Okay, if you know the temple service, then you know that by the type of crop, which time of the year it is. Barley, spring. Wheat, summer. See? Olives and grapes and later on in the year. Okay? And it says, watch this. And it says, and of the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the end, at year's end. Well, wait a minute. Look over here real quick. Year's end. The end of the year is the month of Adar, according to Nisan. I'm sorry. It's Iyar, no Adar. So you go from here to Iyar to Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishri, Chesvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shevat, and Adar. So the end of the year, according to the calendar, will be Adar, but it says the end of the year here. Which end of the year? The agricultural cycle, which happens in Tishri. Did you get that? You want me to repeat it?
No, I will.
I could repeat it for you. No, I want to repeat it for you. I can't believe you don't want me to repeat it.
Repeat that word for word, but it's not going to help my comprehension.
Okay. All right. If we go thinking the way we think today, end of the year to you, if you start the beginning of the year in the month of Nisan, when will be the last month of that year? But here it's telling you at the end of the year's end, but it tells you which time of the year because it gives you the ingathering. It's using that language. Without that language, you would assume it's Adar. But it says the ingathering, that means the harvest. And that happens in Tishri. If we don't know the temple, we're not going to see that.
Or if we don't know the cycle, we're not going to.
There we go. So this is what I mean. We arguing about all this stuff, but we're not connecting the dots. So by knowing the cycle of the agricultural feast and what they will bring, when you read that verse, it didn't have to say Sukkot. It called it by another name. The ingathering of the harvest. The last ingathering, it happens at the end of the agricultural cycle, which is the month of Tishri. You see what I mean? Is this edifying you in any way? A little different? Okay. All right. So there's another verse that I don't know where it is right now that says the same thing. It's in the book of Exodus at the year's end. When Joe showed me this, it's like, oh my God, it's right there. Because I understood the temple. The moment I focused on that verse, I knew exactly what it meant. It's just that when you read the Bible, you never see something and then poof, it's there. That's exactly how this is to you. It happens a lot, doesn't it? Just wait. Now remember, think on this, my brother. If 45% of the commandments is directly to the temple, the reason why we don't really understand many things was the common denominator. We don't study the temple. 45%. That's a big chunk. So how come we don't focus on that? And that's something that I'm hoping that I'm able to change the perspective by sharing these types of teachings. I could come over here and tell you how big the buildings were and how amazing it looks. Yes, I will do that in the virtual reality, but then I'm going to show you the ritual in John chapter 7, verse 38 and 39, when Yeshua spoke the words during the last great day of the feast and gathering, Sukkot, the end of the year. Get it? Then I'll show you in the virtual reality what it looked like when they were doing. Now it'll come alive. I'm glad you enjoyed that enthusiasm with me. Thank you very much. All right.
I think it's because of me.
That's okay. Well, you get it. You get it. Okay, the hint of the feast in prophetic language. Matthew 24, verse 36 to 37 says, but about the day or an hour no one knows. Neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. Read the last part with me. As for as the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Now, Yeshua told us when he's going to return, when he's going to restore the earth back to the authority of God as a new creation motif. Okay. What does the word Noah means? Rest. Comfort. Rest. Okay. What did the Lord do on the seventh day of creation? He rested from order or from chaos? The creation story starts with chaos. Tohu vavohu. Chaos. And he brings function and order to creation, then he rests. Then Adam introduces chaos, shame, sin, exile. Then at the time of Noah, God says, okay, I'm going to renew my covenant with the earth, and I'm going to do a new creation. So, 40 days and 40 nights, it rains. But they were on the boat for 150 something days. So how come it rained for 40 days and 40 nights? How come not 20? How come not 50? How come not 100? Because in the time when the Bible was written, Ea and Enki, the gods of Mesopotamia and Sumeria, they had a numerical ideogram. It was the number 40. It was the number of creation and creator of the heavens and the earth. So God is letting them know that I'm the one who controls the heavens and the earth, and I have control over creation, and I control and give chaos and order. New creation. Is it making sense? Okay. When Noah,
You put a big X on your belief.
Absolutely. By the way, repeat this with me. The Bible was written for us, but not to us. John Walton one time in one of the videos said it, and that resonated with me to the point that I use it all the time. Okay? So God rests on the seventh day. Okay? He brings order from chaos. There's chaos during the flood. Now, if we understand the number 40 and chaos and what the waters represented, then you will understand why the laver in the temple was 40 seah. The liquid measurement was 40 seah. Why would and the name was called the Yam, the sea. Why? To show the world that God has the power over chaos. That he calms the waters. That's why the children of Israel walked through the Red Sea. That's why the children of Israel walked through the River Jordan. To show that they have power over chaos, power over death, power over the whole of creation. That's why Yeshua walked on water. Because they believed that water was the conduit to the abyss, to Leviathan, to the serpent, to death. He walked on water and he pulled out Peter to show that it's through the right arm of the Lord that you have access to the heavens. That the God who sent Yeshua is the one who controls the heavens and the earth, life and death. Amen. It's resurrection right there. Okay? All right. So, when you go into Genesis chapter 7 verse 11, it tells us this. In the 6th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month. Which month is that? Which month is that? I mean, they came out of Egypt when?
That was before.
Right. But many people don't think about that though. So it's Chesban, right? Chesban 17th is the day they came out, the waters opened up. Chaos ensued. Divine judgment comes in now, okay? Are you enjoying this? Yes. A little different than you expected? He's laughing. I hope that's a good laugh. All right. So now we know when the flood began. But look at what happens. Remember, rest is an idiom for what? Reign. Kingship, ruleship, control over chaos. Watch this. In Genesis 8:4 says, in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. I got a question for you. Is the temple on the mountain? Yes. It's called the Holy Mountain. Nachon, yes? It's called the Holy Mountain. Holy Hill. If the temple is the location where the garden in Eden was, Eden is a huge place. The garden was in Eden. It's not the Garden of Eden. It's the garden in Eden. Get it? All right. So, if the temple's a mountain, and God rested on his mountain, I've been to Athens. In the valley, there's a little hill. Athena is worshipped there. I've been to Bet Shean in Israel. There's a valley there. There's a mountain. There was a temple on that thing. I've been to Colombia just recently, and I went to the highest mountain. There was an image of a god. I went to Chile. It's a whole valley in the city. There's a mountain. There was a huge image and a temple of a god up there. High places. So now when you read the Psalms, it says, when I look to the hills, from where does my salvation come from? Salvation comes from the heavens, from the Lord who created the heavens and the earth. The Levite is trying to convey to you what he sees, that in all the hills in Israel, they're worshiping the Creator. They're worshiping idols. But then he says, no, you don't understand. This mountain is where you worship the Creator. It's a contrast of what he's trying to say. Okay? But if we don't recognize the history of Israel and their worship, we're not going to see what that meant. Okay, so now all of a sudden the ark rests on a mountain just like an ark rested inside that building. Yes? What happened when they came out of Egypt? They come out of Egypt, right? They are in the valley. They are in exile. They are in shame. They are dead men walking in slavery. God redeems them. He gets them through the water, just like in creation. There was water from the land separated. There was dry land in creation. Out of Egypt, the Red Sea opened, dry land from water, new creation. The second generation from the River Jordan, dry land to water, and the water went all the way to the city of Adam. The city of Adam. Interesting. That's a very important thing. Okay? Now you have that the ark rests on a mountain. They go from Egypt to Mount Sinai. They go from the river, from the desert to Shechem, a mountain. They go from there to Gilgal. They go from there to Shiloh. They go from there to Gibeon. They go from there to Jerusalem. Always resting on mountains. That's why it says the God of Israel is the God of mountains. It only means something if you go to Israel and you understand the ancient world. All right. So, amen. So Yeshua told us, as in the days of Noah were, so shall be the coming of the Son of Man. Now, how many of us have read that we never really truly understood what that meant? I didn't. I've been teaching Torah I've been teaching Torah now since 2002. And I did not know that until about a year ago. And I'm the type of person that I do not teach what I do not understand. When they ask me, hey, you know about this? I don't know. That's not the area that I focus. I don't want to give you a stupid answer because I want to sound smart. I don't do that. If I don't know, I tell you. Or I find somebody else who knows. So who knows? You know how hard it is for the ego not to know something? When you're supposed to be a Torah teacher? We don't know anything. We're learning. All right, so watch this. So the ark rests on a mountain on the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month. Which month is it? Nisan. Nisan, which day? What happened that day in history?
First fruits.
Yeshua resurrected.
That's right. He came out.
Don't get excited.
He came out of
Continue, sir.
Hallelujah.
Thank you. You're acting like Europeans right now.
I've heard this joke.
Oh, you have? You have to ruin it?
Hallelujah.
I was going to sound smart and I heard it was a joke. So, okay, so he's my teacher, so you know. Now you know where I got it from. Okay.
I get it.
Isn't that amazing? It's incredible what he knows. I get together with him and I don't know anything. I feel like, really? I remember one time we started studying. We're doing the commandments of the temple. We're studying it together, right? We haven't gotten together in a few months because I've been so busy. So we got to the commandment of the Birkat Kohanim, which is the Aaronic blessing. So I figured, simple. You know, say, Joe, the next one is going to be the Aaronic blessing, but let's move on to the next one because it's kind of clear. You know, he go, oh, no. In order for you to know how it was done in the temple, I got to teach you the whole service. We spent 2 hours examining what happened from the time they get up into the perfect time and how and where they were standing when they said the Aaronic blessing. Come on, Lord. We don't know Jack. You know, it was amazing. It's not like just got up and started saying the Abrahamic blessing. No, they did the whole service. Everybody walked in unison. Everybody did everything. Everybody knew where they were at the right time, and all the people knew what was coming, and they responded accordingly. It's amazing, the protocol and the order, something that we have to learn from. Okay? All right. So now we know the resurrection of Messiah was highlighted for us in the book of Genesis. Now, Genesis chapter 8:13. Read that for me, would you? In the 601st, in the what? Of the first day of the? Don't say it. Which is it? Are you guys studying together? Okay, good. Tishri, right? What do we celebrate on Tishri? Right? Or Yom Teruah, right? Yom Hadim, the day of judgment, or the day of trumpets. But why do we blow trumpets for? Because that's the day of proclamation. That's the day when you celebrate the enthronement of God on the earth. So the enthronement of God on the earth was already prophesied for us in Genesis chapters 8 verse 13. After the flood, a new creation. Yes? So that's why we celebrate Yom Teruah, because Yom Teruah is the head of the year of the counting of Jubilees, and also the celebration when Noah came out of the ark to rule. And what did Noah do when he came out of the ark? He built an altar, dedicating what to the Lord? The whole earth. And then he did what? He became the gardener, just like Adam was a gardener. Yes? I gotta move on. You guys know too much. That's it. Forget it. She ruined it. I'm kidding. I'm completely playing with you. I'm just so happy. Listen, I am so happy. You don't understand that when I travel places, it's so rewarding to see that someone studied it.
I appreciate you.
Oh,
He is a walking library.
Yeah.
He's been a mentor for a long time.
well, I'm glad, because it's like my best friend in the world. Okay? But it's so rewarding to see people when they get it. You see, sometimes you see in Chile, you should have seen their faces. They were like, oh my God. And the funny thing is that this whole thing was an argument for them. They were arguing. So, and I heard about the argument. I was going to do the teaching anyway. So after I finished showing it, I said, okay, do you see the importance of understanding everything in relation to the temple? And they say, yes. And they were arguing. It says, man, we were arguing about this. We just didn't know. And that's when I got the clue. It's like, we are trying to run with things we don't know because we so desire to please God after we felt that people lied to us. So the fact that you're studying with Joe, thank you. Because he's probably the most amazing teacher that hardly anybody knows. And that's why I've taken it upon myself to make sure people know him. Because he was kind of underground for a while there when I met him. And I said, no, dude, you don't understand. The temple course that I do in January, it was so that people know him. You know that, Terry. You know, I started doing that because I told my wife, I said, I want people to know who's teaching me this stuff. You know, so Joe, come on over. And I told him, you need to define the terms. Because when I met him, you studied with him for an hour, your brain literally will be like, you cannot think anymore. Because he doesn't define terms. And I remember one time I looked at him and I said, stop. I said, Joe, I study, and I don't know what the hell you just said. And he looked at me, he goes, but why? It's simple. It's simple to you. I said, define the terms. People will get it. You know, and I'll tell you, man, he's incredible. Have you been to Israel with him? How do you?
No, not Israel.
You haven't?
No. I've been to, I studied at Niederland, and then I've been to Israel.
Yeah. When you go to Israel, you better take skates with you.
2 years.
When you go to Israel with him, take skates. Because you are not going to be able to keep up with them. But if you want to slow down, come with me.
I'm going to let him know you said that.
Oh,
Yours is not that
I'm
slow
gonna-
either.
huh?
Yours isn't that slow either.
You're supposed to help me. What's up?
Joe's just on steroids.
No, Joe just listen, when you go with a teacher to Israel, you have this, I painted this picture of me and him just walking together and me asking questions, you know, one-on-one. I have my teacher, no one's interfering. I'm just like, Joe, so, you know, but when we get to Israel, he becomes a complete different person. And this guy, he just goes off walking. And here I am walking, and my hip was all bummed out at the time. And I'm thinking, dude, slow down. And then he'll wait for you all the way over there. And I'm getting mad because I can't ask him a question. And then the moment we catch up, he goes off again. And I'm going like, dude, I'm never coming with Israel with you on the tour. I will kill the man, because it's like, he leave everybody behind. But that's just the way he does stuff. That's okay.
Can I ask one question?
No.
I'm lost.
It's taking you all this time.
The months, you're talking about in Genesis, the months began with Tishrei.
Yes.
Okay, and so when they went into, in Exodus, that's when Nisan,
Well, it was added
it was added.
because it was dealing with the agricultural cycle.
Okay, added, yes.
The problem is that one does not eliminate because each one has a function.
Okay,
That's the key.
that's the key.
See, normally we choose one or the other. Because in the book of Exodus says, Nisan will become now the beginning of year. So we want to obey God.
Okay, I know, I see, okay. I just-
But if we understand the temple service, then we know that Tishri has a function. It's the counting of the sabbaticals and the jubilees.
For ones and sevens.
Ones and sevens.
Ones and sevens.
Absolutely. So Tishri is 1 for the civil. Nisan is the 7th for the civil.
Okay.
Nisan is the 1 for the religious. Tishri is the 7th. Yes.
Tishri is which calendar?
The civil,
The enthronement, the agriculture, the tithing of the animals.
that's Elul.
Lil is the 6th one, Tishri.
Okay. And the Tishri is the one.
For the counting of the jubilees and the sabbaticals, and the end of the year for the agricultural.
Ah.
The 8th month of seed.
Exodus, see, it clicked, see? All right, you ready? Let's move on. Can somebody read this verse? Are we doing okay so far?
Yes.
Somebody read this verse? Anybody?
After this I looked, and there in heaven a door stood open, and the first voice which I had heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, "Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this."
If you study with me, don't say anything. Okay? Those who don't study with me, what time of the year is this?
Tishrei?
Actually, yes. But you're right. Yeah. Okay.
I felt that over here.
But what day on the month of Tishri? Somebody said it. Yom Teruah. What gave it away? No.
The door.
The door open. That's the idiom for Yom Teruah. That's when the Lord sits on his throne and he opened the books, and then the doors are open to hear the case of Israel of repentance. Remember 10 days of repentance? And then after the Day of Atonement, they have the Ne'ilah service, the closing of the doors. Okay, so that's an idiom. So now, opening of the doors is an idiom for Yom Teruah.
I've heard it opening of the gates.
Open of the gates. Yeah, same thing. So now we should consider studying the book of Revelation in light of the feast. Do. Chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7, enthronement ceremony. If you want to know more about that, I have an article on King's enthronements. I can share it with you if you like. And then also the feast, because in the Bible, the enthronement of God happens on Yom Teruah. Remember that. See, everything comes together. Ancient history, the temple, and the culture. Okay? All right. So now,
Rico,
yes.
does that also go with the parable of the 10 virgins?
You know,
Remember when they left and they went to go get the oil and they came back, they were knocking on the door and
yes, but I'm not sure. I got to tell you, man, that 10 virgin thing has always been mysterious for me. I never teach on it because I honestly do not understand it. I got to keep looking more into it. But some other people, yes?
Well, the other connection with Yom Teruah is when we make our hollow, we make it as a round loaf to signify a crown.
That's true. That's true. All right, so now we know it's about the expression opening of the door. According to the Eisenberg, the JPS Guide to Jewish Traditions, page 185 says, on this day, the expression the door was open. On this day, God decides who shall live and who shall die, according to the rabbi speaking here. 3 books are open in heaven on Rosh Hashanah, which means head of the year. One for completely, okay, so Rosh Hashanah here is in the context of the head of the year for the counting of what?
Agriculture and silver.
Of what?
Agriculture and silver.
Yes, but in what context? The Jubilees and the sabbatical years. Yes, that one. Okay? So it's the head of the year for the sabbatical years counting and the Jubilees. Remember, Leviticus 25, Leviticus 27, it deals with the forgiveness of debts and the Jubilee.
Yes.
Deuteronomy chapters 15 deals with that. All of those things is connected to the day of Yom Teruah. And by the way, why do you start the new Torah cycle after Sukkot? You notice that? If the Tishri is the first of the year, how come we start the study of the new Torah cycle after Sukkot? Because Sukkot becomes the end of the year of the agricultural cycle, and now you start the new cycle of the Torah afterwards. You see? Even the way we study the Torah is connected with the temple service. But many people are not studying Torah anymore. I'm going to congregations that don't study the Torah portions on Shabbat anymore. That's concerning to me. Because the duty of Israel is to hear from God on the Shabbat. That's the day you hear His words come from the Torah. It's not the day to argue. It's the day to hear and learn about what He requires of us. And now people are no longer studying Torah anymore. And that to me is concerning. Please consider maintaining the Torah readings, because people come in, they need to have their heart circumcised. How will they know if they never know what God says? And that's really, to me, and the congregation that I'm going to right now, the leader decides to do teachings, topical teachings on Shabbat now because he has new people. Well, you got 7 days of the week, 6 days of the week, you can pick another day. You got to take the Sabbath, which is the lowest day, and talk about all the stuff. I'm sorry, that's my opinion, and I think that on Shabbat, I go teach on Shabbat, so they invited me is a different story because they're inviting me. But I always try to connect the Torah portion to the teaching I'm doing. And I did it this weekend. Talked about some of the verses that were there. Because we need to always keep in mind that our job is to read from the tree of life on Shabbat. That's the Torah. If not, what are we doing? Okay? Something to think about. It's just my opinion, all right? All right. 3 books are open in heaven in Rosh Hashanah. One for the completely wicked. One for the whose bad deeds definitely outweigh their good. And you get the picture, okay? So the whole idea is the expression open door deals with Yom Teruah. Okay, so somebody read that verse right there. Revelation 8:1.
When the Lamb opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour.
How many of you wonder what is that half hour all about? Nobody? All right, it's the Eshmoneh Ezra Amidah. Okay, it's the 18 benedictions. Let's go to Luke, chapters 1:10. It's right there. It says, now at the time of the incense offering, the whole assembly of the people was praying outside as Zechariah was praying inside. If we study the temple, the Mishnah tells us exactly which prayers the priest was doing inside. Luke chapters 1 is enforcing what Revelation 8:1 it talks about. Is the Amidah. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes, depends who does it. If you do it in English, it takes you about 20 minutes. If you do it in Hebrew directly, it takes you about how fast you read it, 10, 15 minutes. If you have to translate it, it takes you about a half hour. We have the answers. So if we understand these principles of the temple, then we will know. Where will they pray it in the temple? Which prayers did they did in the temple? That's important because the morning prayers that we do is not someone's invention. That was established by the men of the Sanhedrin Council, Ezra, Nehemiah, Malachi, Zechariah, Haggai, Zerubbabel. Not Zerubbabel. Yeshua the priest. These are great men of God, prophets. 120 men, 96 of them were prophets. And they say we got to preserve the protocol of the temple. So we established the prayers as a protocol how to approach God. After the destruction of the temple, they wanted to make sure people never forgot how to pray to the Lord. It's royal language. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Ufi Hayiti Elatecha. Oh Lord, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Psalms 25. It's a verse. ברוך אתה אדוני ואלוהי אבותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, אלוהי יעקב, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא. So, God of our forefathers, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the great and awesome God, supreme God, who bestows beneficial kindness and creates everything, who brings a redeemer for the children's children for your name's sake with love. O King, helper, and shield, blessed are you, Lord, shield of Abraham. That is a covenantal formula. When you pray like that, and you say, the God of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, now you're not talking as a petition. Now you are conveying the message of God's covenantal oath He made to them. He said, just like you covenant God with them, may you remember that you promised a Redeemer, and I'm calling out to you to send it. Now you're talking legal language. Remember when your children, you say something to them and you don't follow through, and then they tell you, but you promised. How does that make you feel? Right? So when we call to the Lord and says, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the great and awesome God, supreme God, who bestows beneficial kindness and creates everything, we are ascribing honor to His name. Who brings a Redeemer to the children's children for your name's sake. For your name's sake, He made an oath. He follows through His promises. If not, He's a liar. But the way you ask Him is not by decreeing, is not by declaring, is by asking in petition with respect and reverence and honor. That's how we talk to our King.
Amen.
Thank you. So, Revelation 8:3. Can somebody read Revelation 8:3? I want you to notice the different types of things mentioned there in red.
Another angel with a golden censer came and stood at the altar. He was given a great quantity of incense to offer with the prayer of all the saints and the golden altar that is before the.
Thank you. So, if you know the temple, if you know the feast days, if you know the holy high days, then you know what time of the year that is. So, Yom Kippur, what gave it away? What gave it away?
I go with the fire and the censer on the altar.
The censer, perfect. The censer is the key. Because in the rest of the year, no one can bring anything in the Holy Holies. But the censer that we use for the regular service was silver, not gold. You see? So the fact that it says the golden censer that will come inside the Holy Holies, it tells you by even the metals what type of the year it is. You see? Now let's go to Hebrews chapters 9, verse 3, please. Verse 4. I need you to, every single one of you, look at your Bibles. It's really important right here. Okay? So now the chapters 8 of the book of Revelation should be considered study in the Day of Atonement, right? But I got a question for you. How many steps of the Day of Atonement do you know? What did the priest do on the Day of Atonement? Do you know it? Why don't we fast on Yom Kippur? People now argue about that. Oh, we don't have to. That's a rabbinical thing. No, that's fake news. That's never been rabbinical. That's afflicting your soul. Anybody knows that afflicting your soul, one aspect of afflicting your soul is not eating. I mean, now we just came yesterday into this movement, and now we're telling the Jews that they're wrong about everything. That makes no logical sense. It's like me going to your house and telling you you don't know how to cook the dish that you've been doing for the last 10 years. It's disrespectful. Okay, so what's interesting is that the Day of Atonement is full of liturgy, is full of steps that we need to learn. If we do not study the Day of Atonement, we're never going to understand the book of Revelation or the book of Hebrews, the letter to the Hebrews. So right before you read this verse in chapters 9, verse 4, where was the letter of Hebrews written from? Those who do not study with me. Italy, right? During what time frame? When? Around what time? There you go, around the destruction of the temple. So if we do not understand about imperial worship, imperial cult, the siege of Jerusalem, and what was going on in Rome, then we're not going to understand. I mean, I had this guy who told me he's actually an expert in Talmud and Midrash. He told me, he read the book of Hebrews, a friend of mine. He says, by the way, the person who wrote the book of Hebrews was a Talmudic expert. The guy knew how to do Midrashim. He understood how to put it together. It's a high level of Hebrew understanding. But yet we never study the book of Hebrews in the context of the Day of Atonement. And I believe that's a mistake. So what I would recommend is for you on the Day of Atonement before, read the Avodah service. On my website, there's a PowerPoint. There's a PowerPoint, and there's also I have a PDF file that is for free. You can download it. It tells you, with pictures and everything, how they did it on the Day of Atonement. It's called Avodah. You can get it on the internet, okay? Why do you fast on Yom Kippur? It's all about righteousness and justice. That's the day when you call upon the Lord to give you righteousness and extend mercy. So why would He ask you to fast on that day? Isaiah 58 tells you, if you release the oppression of the poor and you give to eat of the needy and the homeless and the widows. I'm paraphrasing. So imagine you go seek out mercy on the Lord on the Day of Atonement and you're really, really hungry. How many of you have been so hungry you can't wait for the Day of Atonement to end? Am I the only one? There was one time I was in a bad mood for half a day. But I had to push through, right? So imagine now your job to be the tree of life to the nations. And to give fruit and to help those people in need, righteousness and justice, to help the needy, the homeless, the widows, and the strangers, and the Levites. And all year long, we could care less about anybody. And we don't do what we're called to do, because through our actions, we declare to the nations which God we serve and how righteous He is. Right? And now you're hungry on that day, and you want mercy on that day. You want provision and health the rest of the year. The Lord is saying, how'd you feel? You hungry? Exactly. Are you hungry? Yes, sir, please. Adon hacer hijo, tengo hambre, I'm hungry. And the Lord's going to say, you come to me now asking for mercy, and you're hungry, you want food, and you have not remembered anyone all year long, and you hold the tree of life in your hands. So that you will feel for one day how someone feels like that every day who cannot eat. Ever since I understood these things, anytime I drive anywhere and I see a homeless person, it breaks my heart, because I look at him and I go like, wow, the image of God should have been restored, and he took the bait and he went in the other direction. And we have to empower our local communities to empower those people out there. Amen. We need to empower one another. If we don't help each other, let me tell you something, and I'm going to say this, and I don't mean to be rude or demeaning in any way. And I'm not asking you for anything. I'm just going to highlight something that is true. We come to the Hebraic understanding of the Bible, and now we don't want to help anyone, or we don't want to give anything. Yeah. I don't like to ask. Terry, you never see me asking for anything. Not that I don't have needs, we do. But I have to learn to trust the Lord. See, what you don't know is that in 2003 and 2004, I lost everything. I was a week away from being in the street. I was literally without a home. I was going to lose my car. At the time, the wife that I had left me, So it's like I was completely alone. I lost everything. I lost my job. I had $25 to my name. I know what it is to sleep in people's couches. I know what it is to not have anything to wear. I know what it is to start eating like pita. I remember I bought some, turkey and pita bread and milk and stuff, and I ran out of the butter, and I ran out of the turkey, and I ran out of the milk, and all I had was pita with water. I still remember that. And I wondered, and I told the Lord, I said, for so long, I said, Lord, please, what did I do wrong? I was on my face all the time trying to figure out if I did anything wrong. Please forgive me. What did I do wrong? Please seek out the Lord. Vindicate me, O Lord, for my enemies are mocking me because I serve you. And look what, no, you see, I did not understand that if I was going to be His servant, I needed to learn to trust Him, because He was the one who was going to provide for everything. He needed to strip me completely of my past in order for Him to be my sole provider. To the point that I used to be on Home Shopping Network. I was on TV for a while, my past. I was in the entertainment business. And I bought all this expensive clothes, and I put it on storage, right? I gained like 60 pounds because my hip, I had sciatica, and I couldn't do any exercise anymore. And I went up to like 260. Oh my God, I was huge, And I told my wife, I married her in 2005, and I told her, I said, I got this clothes, and when I lose the weight, I'm going to use them again, whatever. It's expensive. It was the thing that I bought on my money, with my fame, with my whatever name. I couldn't lose a pound. My wife looks at me and she goes, Rico, honey, it's time to give up the clothes. Because I was paying for storage, I was not using it. With pain in my heart, I went to my storage and I gave it away to Salvation Army. And I remember putting it over there in the little thing. I was like heartbroken because I work hard on TV to be presentable. A year and a half later, I lost 60 pounds. And I could not understand what do I have to wear now? Got nothing. That was the point. The point was that everything I have today, everything I own, everything I wear, even my wife He's given to me. I needed to learn that He's my provider. I don't need to beg anyone for anything. If I do my part, He does His part. I have to be happy with my needs being met. But unfortunately, the body of Messiah, when we come into the Hebraic understanding, we are so wounded that now we no longer want to help anybody. Oh, we don't want to give offerings or anything. That's part of the temple. There's no temple. We don't have to do that anymore. Because they abused us because we didn't know how to read the Bible correctly when we were in the church. So let me get this straight. We don't do our study diligently, and we were had by someone manipulating the scriptures because we were not studying, and now the people who teach the Torah in context have to suffer, and now we can't even do things for the kingdom when you're supposed to be the provider of the kingdom so the kingdom can continue. And the only people being heard right now on TV are people who have no knowledge. They don't even get to your ankles in understanding of what you know. I was listening to him today. I was sitting in the hotel watching this guy, and I'm going, oh, Lord, look what he's saying. And I'm having a little powwow here. So, Lord, I'm not asking you to just let me have a national TV thing, but I'm thinking, how come they're the only ones who are heard right now? Please supply the means. The shameful thing will be if God brings another billionaire from the world who doesn't even fear God and says, hey, you guys need something? Here it is. When it's supposed to be the kingdom to do it. And He will do it, by the way. God will move whatever necessary. But I got to tell you this. If the Lord uses a resource from the outside, because inside we lost our way of understanding provision, we will miss the biggest blessing. And we will be held accountable for that. Something to think about. Because we keep eating, and we're not giving nothing. Either our time or whatever it is. People say, well, how come you give away all your PowerPoints? All the people always tell me, how come you give away your PowerPoints? It's not mine. It's just information I put together from all the people who've done the research. I haven't created anything new. Maybe my gift is the way I present it. But this teaching comes from Joe. I spent hours studying with Joe, and he took the time, resources, never asked me for a cent. Not one time. He shared everything. And I'm going like, I want to be like you, dude. I want to do the same thing too. Let's empower other people. And now we're doing courses everywhere. This year we're doing courses in the temple in Australia, New Zealand, Chile, Colombia, Peru, here in Houston, Indiana, Canada, Puerto Rico, Mexico. Hello, it's growing. But we need more people. I can't do it alone. Joe cannot do it alone. So we need more people to help us. So we do the courses in January to equip local leaders like yourselves to have the tools and the means to be able to grow together. You have Joe and here. Don't miss up that opportunity. If he was, I would love to live out here just to be, I'll be in that house all the time, eating all of Debbie's food. All right, let's move on. So who's got Hebrews 9:4? If I give you guys a quick break, you're not going to leave?
I'm right here.
Because people, every time we give a break, they leave. And I have some cool stuff. Watch, I'm going to show you cool stuff. Watch. See that? You see all that stuff? You see all that stuff? See, I want to show you all that stuff. Okay. Who's got Hebrews 9? Go ahead. 9:4.
Which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant overlaid on all sides with gold.
Okay.
Which were
That's it. The golden censer, right? But not every Bible says the same thing. Can you read the scriptures?
To which belonged the golden censer.
Okay, that one has it.
Okay.
What does yours have? Oh, what?
The golden altar of incense.
There you go. The golden altar and the golden censers are two different things.
I have the real life version.
Which one? What does it say?
So how do we know which one's right?
Go ahead.
In my one, it says, and held a golden altar of incense and the Ark of the Covenant.
Okay, so those versions, they're wrong translation. Because the golden altar of incense, which is this right here, has never been inside the Holy of Holies.
That's right.
You see what I mean?
That's right.
The golden censer, yes. Remember, the book of Hebrews is in the context of the Day of Atonement. The translator can't even agree in the context from one Bible to the next. You see the problem? Yes? So if we don't study the book of Hebrews in the context of the Day of Atonement, you're going to go over that verse, you're not going to see it.
So it should be.
That happens a lot, huh?
I kind of missed that.
We,
You said that the golden altar of incense.
yeah, what does yours say?
The golden altar of incense.
Okay, okay. The golden altar of incense is in the holy place. Let me show you. Hopefully I have something here. There we go. You see this right here? That's the golden altar of incense. The golden censer, during the year, they have a silver one, and they bring it only to here.
Right.
On the Day of Atonement, they will bring the golden censer in here, only one time a year.
Purple is the veil?
Yes. So that's a veil, 2 veils here, 1 veil there, and 1 veil there. There were 4 veils in the first century temple.
This is translated wrong, it should be golden censer.
Yes. And the point is that the book of Revelation is supposed to give you that clue. Because the book of Revelation tells you this. Watch. The golden censer, the altar, and the golden altar of incense. By saying the golden censer, now you know that is the Day of Atonement. Because the Day of Atonement is the only time they use the golden censer. But in order to see that, you see how yellow it is? I mean red? It's like a highlight. I used to play baseball in high school and college. I played professionally 6 years. Okay? When I was in college, I didn't want to go to class. I just want to play baseball. Okay? So I would go to the bookstore, or I would talk to someone who was studying the same major as I was, and I want to make sure that when he finished his semester, and I want to make sure he was smart, I want to buy his used books.
That's right.
Because I knew that some of the college professors, they don't change their curriculum. One of them told me, I don't have time. I just do the same curriculum year out, year in. Perfect.